Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Professor Schmidt, for what came before. That couldn't have had a better setup for us to this session. Thank you to my guests for joining us today. This is an important session as we look at the future of hospitality and the pipeline of talent that's coming through. They say it's easier to build a hotel than to fill it with appropriately skilled staff. This is a challenge that we see here in the Middle East as the speed of growth kind of gets ahead of us to some extent. This session we want to explore the future of talent, what's changing, how that's being disrupted to a certain extent. We'll look at the supply side in terms of providing that pipeline, as well as the demand side from the hospitality industry perspective. I'd like to welcome my guests. I will give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit more. You are almost sitting under your name, so I won't spend too long on them, but from the right-hand side, Eddie Tannous, Chief Operating Officer at Rotana, Professor Marcus Venzien from EHL. We've got oh no, we've changed orders. Sorry, Professor Scott Richardson from Abu Dhabi, Les Roches, and finally Dimitris Menikis from Wyndham Hotels. So thank you guys for joining us. Let's get started. We've got about 35 minutes, so we'll jump straight in. First, perhaps, Eddie, as you're here, in terms of the demand side of the hospitality industry, we've seen that expectations are shifting to a certain extent in terms of what guests want, what the talent wants, and what the industry wants. How are employee expectations changing, and what's working when it comes to retaining and engaging teams?
Roland, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. It's a pleasure being here. I don't know if expectations are changing drastically from the time when we joined the industry. I think it's just a normal part of the evolution of things. I'll give a quick example. I was doing homework with my son last week, which is the first time in 5 years that I do this because my wife had me do it. But the economics that a 10th grader is getting today, the economics class, is what I took in university. So the level of education is obviously changing. The automation of things are changing. But if I look back at why I joined the industry, I was studying something else. I fell upon this job, and then I found out there's an opportunity for me to grow in this industry. So I found my motivation, and I stayed there, and the rest is history. So I think we need to be understanding of what, obviously, from the university level, what the students are foreseeing for their future in terms of why do I want to join this industry. The previous panel here was talking about hospitality students or hospitality professionals that are shifting into other industries. I'm not a hospitality major, that I ended up shifting into hospitality. So I think as you move on in your career, you start realizing where you want to be. And that's the normal evolution of things. So that's just because there's a big perception that, oh, things are changing, AI is changing things. I think it's the normal evolution of things. I think the biggest challenge we have in the industry in terms of retention, if I try to answer your question from the other side, is the selection process from the beginning has to be right. On both sides, students, when they are selecting their career and when they are making this choice to enter the industry, I think what we can do is we can give them a big oversight on what this will look like over the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years to begin with. And on our side also is understanding what makes it click for our new workforce. The things that made it click for me in the beginning might be different for what is going to make it click for my kids. But at the end, then the nature of the motivation is the same. What makes it click for you? Is it growth? Is it fast money? You're not going to get it in hospitality. Once we get that part right, I think it alleviates a lot of the pressure on the issues we're having later on in terms of retaining talent.
Thank you, Eddie. If we can just stay on the supply side, sorry, on the demand side, Dimitris, how does this differ from place to place? Around the world, we see very different models of hospitality. What are the expectations? How do those change by region? And what can we learn in the Middle East from what's going on around the world?
I'm afraid the West has lost its competitiveness. Europe is getting older. I'm the perfect example. We're getting less competitive. We're getting more complacent, and I think hospitality was born Actually, it was the Greeks who invented hospitality. I mean, everybody knows that. It's moving to Asia. I think the expectations of the clients are increasing, but our ability as an industry to match those expectations is actually diminishing. And that is a big challenge that we have across Europe. I really like what the hotels and HCL is doing, and more of other hotels, but other hotel groups and schools. But unfortunately, 60% of the graduates don't stay in the industry, especially in Europe. And that's a fact. We are the only industry that teaches social skills. And in a world that every single industry needs social skills more and more, I heard what you talked about loneliness. Soul travelers is the new trend. People are my girls. I've got 2 teenage girls, and they travel on their own. Solo travelers are increasing. Less people are engaging with our industry, and that means that less people are eager to work in our industry. So the West is actually losing the game. It's obvious. Then you go to India, then you go to Asia. And these are the new places where hospitality has actually reached a completely different level. You come to the Middle East, you guys have perfected hospitality, right? I mean, yes, the Greeks invented it, but I think the Middle East and the Asians have actually perfected it. And then you go to Africa. If it's true what we heard yesterday, which I think it is, that Africa is the next big thing in the next 10 years, this is where the workforce is going to come from. These are people who are still passionate about our industry, and they see our industry as a place to start a career. And my last comment is that we talk a lot about we are the people industry. Seriously, what are we doing about it? We need to keep on stop telling that story, because I don't think a lot of people believe it anymore. We're the people industry. Do you know that most of the graduates actually don't stay in hospitality because they had a horrible internship experience? We are our biggest enemy. And in certain areas, we're worse than others. And that's what is happening in the Middle East. That's what is happening in India. I go to India very frequently. I mean, they've perfected hospitality. The only thing they're missing is that it's only domestic. I mean, in Greece, I'm Greek, we have, probably I've said this 10 times by now, we have about, in 9 months, we have 30 million tourists. In the whole of India, we're 9 million people. The whole of India, 1.4 billion people, 9 million tourists. So that's where you see the next evolution of hospitality is going to come from. Where is going to be the workforce? And my last comment, which it's the biggest disappointment that I have with the 36 years that I've been in this industry, we've actually completely killed the meaning of a general manager. The general manager, I used to work for a guy in the Intercontinental in Athens, and I looked at him and he was God to me. He was walking down the stairs and I'm like, I just met God. And that's not happening anymore, because they're all busy with dashboards and brand standards, and they don't have time to teach their own teams. So if you put all this together, I think that we've got a lot of answers to give to this young generation that they want to stay in hospitality.
Thank you, Dimitris. Okay, so that paints us a reasonably large problem that let's have a look at some of the answers. So, Professor Richardson, how do you design programs that maybe address some of those issues that have been brought up?
Yeah, I think the challenge is, at the end of the day, most of the hospitality schools are teaching business. We're teaching hospitality business, and you mentioned about the social skills, and that's the one competitive advantage that our graduates have, and unfortunately that's also the competitive advantage they have when they go out to industry. So they have the skills that insurance companies, the finance companies, the luxury retail companies all need. So if they don't get the experience they want from the industry itself, the hospitality industry, they leave very quickly. And my PhD 20 years ago was on this topic, and nothing's really changed in the last 20 years. We still see, you mentioned 60%, we see more than that. We see sometimes 70, 80% of our graduates are not staying in the industry. They're entering, but they're not staying. And there's various reasons for that, the hours, the pay, etc. But I think the key thing that we see with our young students today is they really want recognition. They want to be seen. And you mentioned the internships, and it's a big problem. The internships is a big problem. When they go out to the industry partners and they don't feel seen on those placements, they're placed in a role, they just left there 6 months, come back, they never see a GM, they never talk to a manager. They don't get that feel for the industry. And when they come back to the campus, when we talk about their second internship, they're now talking, where else can I go? I don't want to go back to the hotel. I want to go to an airline. I want to go to luxury retail. I want to go somewhere else. And that's a bit of a challenge. So with our curriculum, obviously, we work very closely with our industry partners, and Abu Dhabi Hospitality Academy, we've worked very hard on working very closely with our partners to really make sure that we are preparing the students for the realities of the industry. And I think that's what we try to do. We bring industry into the campus as much as we can. We expose our students to the industry. Right from semester 2, they're out doing their first internship. So we try to get the students out there with industry, but at the end of the day, again, they're going out to industry in that second semester. And if they don't have that good experience, then they've got another 3 years of study to go, and it does impact. So I think working closely with the industry, but I think from an industry point of view, when you've got the interns in the hotels, you really need to make sure that you recognise them, that you do treat them differently. They're not just another staff member. These are kids that are investing 4 years of their lives, 5 years of their lives in training. Their families are spending a lot of money to get them through these programs, and they just want to feel seen.
Okay.
I'm sorry to be the disruptor here, but it's a question for you, Professor. Don't you think that we need to do a little bit more work before the student chooses the major and goes into university, only to find out 2 semesters later, this is not what I want to do?
We spend a lot of time on that. So we do spend a lot of time when we do open days, when I talk with young students in year 11, year 12, we do try to introduce them to the realities of the industry early. We try to introduce them to the types of roles that are in the industry. But it's difficult with an 18-year-old that doesn't really know what they want to do. I think one of the benefits that the hospitality industry has is when I talk to potential students today, there's a lot of degrees that students will enter today that in 4 years' time when they graduate, their job won't exist. If you're doing an accounting degree today, I'm sorry, but you're not going to have a job when you graduate. Hospitality is always going to exist. It's a people industry. We need people. And I think you're right. We do have to play a role with the industry to make sure that we're preparing the students for the realities of the industry. Yep.
Thanks. But this puts quite a lot of emphasis on the institution. So, Professor Venzine, for an institution like EHL, we've got, are we teaching too much management? Are we not teaching enough human? Do we talk about degree programs? Do we talk about vocational? Do we talk about information, advice, and guidance to students and making sure that they maybe don't come into the industry if it's not appropriate for them? What does it mean for the institution? Where are you at in terms of your evolving thinking?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good one, and let me also first congratulate ourselves with Achim Schmidt. We were all standing there. We're saying, you know, now we can leave, and all the answers are there. And I think he hinted that I'm a little bit biased. I'm working with Achim, so I'm a little bit biased here. But what I have to say is that we as educational institutions, we need to change. Dimitri, you pointed out that the industry needs to change, and we need to help the industry to change. I think we need to create a sense of urgency in the industry that there is change needed. I mean, it's terrible that we have 50–60% of turnover rate. But the more terrible thing is that the general managers, they accept it as normal. I mean, if you go in other industries, if you have more than 20%, something is wrong with you, with your company. So what we do at DHL is we in German we say die Treppe wischt man von oben, the stairs you clean from the top. So first we need to create a different sense of urgency in GMs and one level above, and think about the role of the GM. Of today, and EHL has developed a general management program which is actively doing that. How much does a hotel earn in revenues, like a big one, like 50 million, 60 million, 70 million?
I'm sorry, I cannot disclose that information.
But I can tell you. So it's between 50 and 70 million, and what is the impact that the GM has on these 50 million, 70 million, and does he or she earn enough in relation to the power that this person has? Not losing time with KPIs and no, but being there and thinking about talent and talent management. When I ask the GMs, how much of your HR budget is spent on talent management, talent development, training? Obviously, I'm interested in that. Is it 1%, 2%, 3%? they don't know even. Think about this, they don't know how much they spend in training. So I think we need to clean the stairs from the top. We need to have a clear view on what is the return on investment on knowledge and development, and then we can think about how to train on the vocational area, and there we need to change. We need to make it more cost effective, so we need to become more digital and needs to be attractive, and we have a model, a VET model that is working closely with the industry. We train the trainer, we go into the hotels, and then we have a capability of training the army of talents that we need to fill the big walls that have been created in the past.
We'll come back to that in a moment in terms of that retention piece. I just want to ask, 60% plus, you know, the churn that's going on in hospitality reflects a much greater challenge than in many industries, and that's even before we get technology disruption, if that's relevant in this industry. When we look at the sort of practices, we've seen that Rotana has been focusing on recognition and well-being to retain talent. What's been most effective for you to reduce turnover and retain your core talent?
I'll tell you, I joined Rotana just over 2 years ago. And I have to say, and with the case of Rotana, I think our founder is sitting in the room, and this is not because he's here. The company was created from the beginning on the basis of taking care of people. If you hear the chairman talking in any panel, we start with taking care of people. When I joined the company, I found an astonishing length of service in the company. Honestly, I found people that have been with us 20 years, 25 years. And for me, this was unorthodox compared to what I see in the market. So that is something definitely to benefit from and to see how we can build on. Now, do we have our challenges? Of course, we have our challenges like anyone else in the industry. And I say the turnover rates in this market is not 60%, it's not 40%, it's still within this 18 to 22%, because we have access to markets that are still, as Dimitri said, interested in getting into the industry. So I'm not diminishing the issue. Obviously, looking at the US or Europe, I know that this is a problem. For me, it comes with the selection process. You have to select that DNA that's going to fit in with your culture, that knows what comes ahead. Then creating the programs that are going to get them there. Every one of us has I'm going to repeat myself, but has a tick, has something that motivates them. So from the get-go, what we're doing now in Rotana, and to go back to what that evolution looks like, our policies and procedures, the way we train people from day one when they come to work, used to be very checklist oriented. It used to be very structured, Excel sheet, this is what you do in step 1, this is what you do in step 3, etc., etc. Might have been relevant to me when I started. It's not relevant to today's generation that learns this way by scrolling 5 seconds every 5, to go to the next idea. So we're evolving to be able to say, okay, we're not going to give you a checklist. We're going to tell you a story. And we're going to give you a comic book, let's say, look and feel to show you what that story looks like. And we're going to develop it into a 15 to 20 second video. So yes, there's a huge responsibility on us to adapt to the changes. But from the get-go, you select right, you create an environment of respect. I mean, what we're saying is, I don't want to say basic, but yes, unfortunately, sometimes we do forget the basics. But this is hospitality 101. This is how everything started. Yes, you have to, it's not the most attractive industry to start. It's like the army. You have to start from the bottom and grow yourself up. So you do have to create an environment where people feel they belong, where people feel they're appreciated. Yes, if a GM is sitting in the office and doing reports all day long, he's not the right GM to have. You need someone on the ground. You need to go to the cafeteria and sit with any other employee and have that conversation with them. Notwithstanding, absolutely, this has to be done. But I think we really need to understand that this will always happen. And in my opinion, again, I'm not diminishing the problem, but I think it's just a normal evolution of the dynamics of our hospitality, and we need to start talking to people in a different language. We need to select the right DNA. This way, I think we can minimize that turnover ratio.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, so we're hearing that number one is training for retention from you, and that's glad you said that. That's the right answer for this panel. But in terms of, Professor Benzine, when we talk about then, again, that role of the institution, the training provider to come in, we've just heard, now it's bottom up, as well as top-down. The role of the institution in a changing educational and pedagogical environment where students can't cope maybe with long, drawn-out training sessions. They're looking for bite-sized pieces of visual information. How are you changing what you do in terms of ongoing professional development and training throughout a professional's career?
I think you make a very good point here that I think training alone is not enough. You need to insert it in a talent management system. So you need to make, as you say, you need to choose the right people. Then you need to make an assessment of what their skills are, what their weaknesses are. You need to develop a talent plan. You need to develop a career plan. You need to develop a succession plan. And it's shocking to see how sometimes hotel groups don't have these standard processes in place. And another thing that we learned from the keynote speech before is that the lobby experience that Achim was discussing before, I think you need to, as he said, we need to also use the same principles for our employees, for our colleagues. I think the industry standards, the books that everybody has read, probably Setting the Table, probably everybody has read, or Will Guidara's Unreasonable Hospitality is kind of building on Setting the Table. What their causal chain that they build is to say happy employees will lead to happy clients, will lead to happy shareholders at the end. So you need to start from employees, and again, coming back to loneliness, the antidote of loneliness is not being among a lot of people. You can be very lonely and in the middle of people. You want to be considered, you want to feel important. And like the scrolling every 5 seconds, I think the new generation wants feedback every 5 days, or even more often. So I think our learning approach at DHL is considering that. We have a lot more dynamic formats, gamification we call this in the digital world, where you also compete with others. But then we also have a lot of experiential exercises, experiential part. When you come to our campus with 80,000 square meters, we have 14 food outlets and 28 workshops. So our students in the first year, and they can drop out after the first year and say, it's not, we have almost nobody that does, but we go into these workshops, and the students, they learn together with the faculty how to serve in a 1-star Michelin restaurant. And that's really something that changes the mindset, and it's also teaching the number one quality that we heard before is empathy. You learn that not from a digital tool necessarily. We try to do it, but I think really empathy learn in across nations. We have 130 different nationalities on our campus. You learn that by interacting with others.
Thank you. Just to continue somewhat that theme, technology is reshaping everything around us, and it's accelerating. Professor Richardson, what does that mean for you in terms of teaching, in terms of student engagement? How big a disruptor is it for you now, and how do you see that evolving in the future?
Yeah, I think it's a massive disruptor from multiple fronts. Obviously, students needing to learn the technological skills they're going to need in the industry to be able to succeed. AI is changing, changed everything. From an assessment point of view, we need to think about how do we assess the students, because writing a 3,000-word report, we know a student's not going to write a 3,000-word report anymore because ChatGPT will do it for them in 5 seconds. So we need to work with our industry partners to develop authentic assessments, which also then gives the students a real good idea of the industry itself. So we are working very closely with our faculty to work with our industry to co-create assessments for students, but also to look at the technologies that the industry requires. What are those skills? We're looking obviously to use artificial intelligence, VR, to do some trainings as well. And we're looking at our Assistant Dean for Research and Innovation is constantly on the lookout for different tools that the students will need. But again, it's talking to industry partners to really understand what is the need of industry and what can we bring into the classroom to make sure our students are ready to hit the ground running.
Perfect, thank you. Dimitris, on the hotel side, When we talk about AI disruption, when we talk about technology, I don't think in hospitality many people are going to be saying that we can replace graduate jobs with technology or with robots. But perhaps how do we strengthen service quality with technology? How do we increase the human connection through what's evolving and what's coming into the market?
Look, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Look, I'll go back a bit, and this is amazing what I heard up to now. The fundamentals of the industry are still there, right? And I fully agree with Eddie. What 5,000 years ago when people traveled, what they want today is exactly the same thing. Probably more plugs and a better Wi-Fi, but it's the same thing. They want a decent bed, great running water, and they want somebody to greet them and smile when they walk in. I don't think ever is going to say, I went to this hotel and that there was nobody there and they were all full of robots and we had such a great experience. So we're in good in that shape. In that front, we are in good place. The challenge that I see is that the more we talk about technology in our industry, the more we push people away. Why would my 26-year-old work in a place that we keep on telling them that AI is going to change their jobs and is going to take over their jobs? He's just going to find another place to work because he's worried that AI is going to replace all those jobs. So we have to stop that narrative. Technology is a tool, but it's not a replacement of humans in hospitality. That's it. That's for real. Unless we start talking about that and we start telling that story, that will never change. Second, in terms of technology, I think that the more people, and I really loved what you said about the loneliness, the more people are the glass generation, they belong into the glass generation, they do everything through the glass, the more lonely they're going to be. Hotels are not a place to sleep. Hotels are part of our future life. They're going to be places to sleep, to work, to socialize, to have your meetings, to meet your families, to do your weddings. We need to realize and we need to start changing the narrative of the industry that we're not just a place to sleep. We're far more than that. We are a social hub. We are the most important, apart from Starbucks.
For now. For now.
No, we are the most important social hub of a community. That's what we are. And the moment that young students and our own people realize that, the whole narrative changes. You know the famous joke, I went to Starbucks and I saw something really incredible. Somebody was actually having a coffee. You know, because nobody goes for a coffee in Starbucks anymore. Everybody goes to socialize and work. That's where hotels need to be. And I'll finish with a personal experience. My daughter, my second daughter, is 26. She decided to get hospitality against my will. No, I'm only kidding. So she really loved hospitality. She wanted to be in hospitality. And then she got a job in Barcelona in her internship. And she was so excited. I said, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm an experiences officer. And I'm like, an experiences officer? What the hell is that? So I called my friend who is the owner of the hotel. I said, what have you done to my daughter? That's illegal. Experiences officer? She said, mate, she's a receptionist. And I'm like, and he gave me such a very simple example. He said, I advertise for a receptionist, 5 CVs. I advertise for an experiences officer, 50 CVs. Same job. We still employ people for back of house. I mean, seriously, where? Are we going to put them in the dungeon? What is back of house? How can we employ 25-year-olds when we tell them for jobs that they were created 30 years ago and they don't exist anymore? And last comment, we lack role models. How many of you know Satya, for example, my very good friend, who's the MD or the CEO for Marriott for EMEA? He started as a dishwasher. Haytham, who runs ISG for the region, he started as a bellboy. My own boss, the CEO of Wyndham, he started as a dishwasher back in the United States. We need role models. We don't have role models. Everybody wants to be Ronaldo or Bambe or whatever they're called, but nobody wants to be a CEO of a hotel company.
Okay, thank you, Dimitris. I can see a couple of you have comments that you want to make in return. Before we do, we will have time for a question or two from the audience. So if there's anything that you have an urge to ask our panelists, please kind of get your thoughts in order. We'll get a microphone to you. But Eddie, you wanted to respond to that.
I cannot agree more with Dimitri on the AI technology. I'll make it very quick because I know you have other content to cover. When I was working in reservations back in 1999, 95% of our business came through calls. And then the internet happened. It's like, what's going to happen? And then we saw the shift and nothing happened. It's the evolution. And right now, when I was in school, it was illegal to get a calculator into class. Now it's a prerequisite. You have to have a calculator before you go into math class. So yes, we are evolving, but I love what you said about the title being experiences agent or officer. Right? And yeah, it's part of that evolution. We have to be relevant to our client. The employee here is our client. So just a quick one on this one.
Okay. Any questions from the audience?
We covered everything.
No? In which case, perfect. That's gives us a little bit more time to kind of sum up. We've heard a lot about churn. We've heard a lot about disruption. Training as a solution to some of that, top-down or bottom-up, however we're talking about it, seems to be emerging as one of the key themes, whether it's technology-related, loneliness-related, whether it's retention-related. Constantly engaging and upskilling our workforce seems to be a crucial part of the success and sustainability of our industry. I'm just going to ask you one by one, and apologies for the format here, so if you come forth and you want to say the same thing, we can just change question. Let's start with you, Eddie. What's one thing that you think we should change in order to make sure that hospitality remains the choice of career for our best young talent?
Thank you. I think that's the excellent conclusion question. I think we need to work with each other a lot closer. I think there needs to be a real partnership between the operator and the institution. Anyone who plays golf knows that you go to the driving range, you hit 200 balls, 185 of them are perfect. The minute you step on that golf course, you start going left and right because the dynamics are different. So we have to work together from the get-go, and other industries have done that. Now, anyone who wants to go into finance or trading, which is a very attractive career right now, is already seeking universities that have associations with those institutions where they can get employed. We need to do better in that area.
Thank you. Professor Benzine?
So I would have said don't accept a 50% or 40% churn rate, but you're below 20. So I'm a strategy professor as training. I would recommend analyzing your OPEX and CAPEX and trying to understand how your OPEX and CAPEX is influenced by or is influencing customer satisfaction. So if you invest in people instead of walls, what effect does this have on customer satisfaction? And then you create some sort of an understanding that the investment actually pays. And then you go to the GMs and say, look, I allow you to, instead of buying a new carpet, to send somebody into a management training.
Okay, thank you. Professor Richardson?
Yeah, look, I agree with Eddie. I think we do it quite well already, but I think we could still do it better, is working with the industry. And I can't stress how important the internship is for the student. Because in that internship, that 6-month period, that's when the student decides, is this industry for me or not? There's only really one point where students drop out of an institution like La Roche or EHL, and that's after industry placement, because they decide, I'm not going to continue to invest in this because this is not what I want to do. Most of them, though, will stay because they know they've got other opportunities at the end, because we do train for empathy, we train for those soft skills that industries require. So the one thing that I really stress when I'm talking to industry partners is that the importance of that internship. And some companies do it a lot better than others and have structured internship programs, and the students come away, and I can say our student that was with Retana for the last 6 months had a fantastic experience. But there was others that had very different experiences. And I think that really is the point that they decide, is hospitality for me or not? So I think working with industry on that industry placement is crucial.
Thank you. Dimitris, final thoughts to wrap up.
Yeah, no, I'll take the lead. So I have a SADO board in EMEA who are 12 interns, and I consult with them every month in terms of how we can do things better. And there's only one thing that they keep on telling me, and they keep on reminding me, that we need purpose. Purpose is very important for the young generation. Purpose is very important for us as well. And I'll leave you with two thoughts. We're the only industry, I mean, probably that's a bit biased, but we're one of the major industries that is against racism, is against wars, is bringing people of every color, every gender together, and we are the industry that promotes world peace. And I know it sounds very idealistic, but I've been at lobbies where Iranians, Iraqis, Israelis, Ukrainians, and Russians are actually enjoying themselves and their families, and that's half of the world's problems right there. And we are the industry that does that. Spreading that message is absolutely key to make those young kids realize that they are actually joining an industry that contributes to the biggest thing in humanity, which is peace and ease of mind. We are the industry of peace, we are the industry of bringing people together, and that gives enormous purpose to those kids that they want to join our industry. And last but not least, do not lose fact that I know sustainability. Who talks about sustainability? Have you noticed something? There's no sustainability conversations in conferences anymore. Why? Because somebody said sustainability is not important. And that's brought us to the forefront. Over tourism, we're not sustainable. Bring those values back to our industry, because those values is what keeps those young kids excited with our industry. So never lose focus of what is important, and what is important, what gives purpose to these kids. Why my two girls will join an industry that has no purpose, that has no role models. That's my biggest challenge.
Thank you, Dimitris. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the session. I'm afraid we're out of time for questions. Our thing's gone red. But we will be around if you want to ask the panel directly, if that's okay. So Eddie, Professor Venzine, Professor Richardson, Dimitris, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.